In this tutorial, we'll investigate the options available for text fields. These are fields where a customer is able to place text onto the canvas area. The administrator or template designer has full control over the customization options available to their customers. For example, the customer could be given a fully dynamic text frame with almost as much customization options as seen by the administrator themselves. Or on the other end of the scale, options available to the end user could be heavily restricted, so they can do little more than type into a completely fixed text frame, for example. We're also going to explore how to review our dynamic template as a customer would to ensure that the desired customization options are available. So we'll start off in the administrative area on the MegaEdit products screen. So to begin, we're going to apply some font options to our MegaEdit products. So uploading custom fonts is also possible, but this will be covered in an additional tutorial. In this one, we're just going to enable the default Infigo font set. So if I find my MegaEdit product and then edit that, this is the area where we previously uploaded or selected canvas, stock, and output type options. Now we're just going to go to our font section. Make sure that we have the default Infigo fonts selected, and then click Save. And that just makes sure that we actually have some fonts available within this particular product. Next, we're going to launch the MegaEdit editor, which I've already got on this second tab here. So with the MegaEdit editor loaded, we can drag a text frame onto the canvas, either by selecting it and dragging and dropping, or we can actually just click on the text frame to add another text frame to our canvas. Now, a lot of the options that we have with our text frame, our text field, is the same as we saw with the image field. So starting with the basics, you've got a lot of transformation options. So we can reposition, we can resize, we can rotate. And then when we double click the text field, that will load up this pop-up window, which will give us all of our text options. And again, it works in pretty much the same way as we saw in a previous tutorial with the image field. So we'll start off with the text options tab. And the first thing that this shows us is a font selector. So this lists all of the fonts that were made available by selecting a particular font set in that admin area that we did a few moments ago. So for example, if I type something into this box, I of course just have the ability to change the utilized font. The Image Options tab also allows you to format and customize the text content of your frame. So some of the available options that are in here include modifying the text appearance, so adding effects such as bold and italics, if that's been included in your font specification. So if you upload custom fonts, you'll need to make sure that you have the relevant information for these options. You can change the color. So you can do this in a few ways. You have a color picker. You can specify an RGB value if you wish to do so, a CMYK value, or if you specified spot colors, which will be in a future tutorial, you'll be able to specify spot colors from here as well. So these are predefined colors that you want to be able to choose between. We have horizontal and vertical text alignment. We have a text scale slider, which allows us to change the font size, and then direct entry of the font size and incremental change of the font size. We have arrangement options, so if there's multiple frames stacked on top of one another and you want to change which one is appearing at the front, then as with the image field that we saw in a previous tutorial, you can just change the order in the Z axes of those individual fields. And finally, we have a few management options. This just gives us the ability to delete the field, duplicate, and then some text-specific ones. So we have one which is fit text to box. So that will resize the actual frame itself to fit the currently input text. We have clear formatting, so that will revert it to our saved format, our saved text format. And then we can set a default format. So if we want the current specification to be our default text specification, then we can save that format as well. However, if I click to revert, it should go back to that red format that we had previously. The next tab along is the Show Advanced Text Options. So on this tab, you can primarily put in fit to box options. So this is kind of the opposite of the functionality I showed a moment ago. This means you adjust the size of the text font, you adjust the size of the text to fit the size of the box that you have specified. So let's say that you want the text to fill that particular area. If we specify that we want it to fit to box, then it's going to rescale the actual text contained within it so that the box is filled. By default, it will show as a minimum and a maximum font size of -1. This means that there's no limits. It will just keep rescaling to fit that particular box, no matter what you type in it. But you can do maximum and minimum font sizes. You can also specify text wrap if you want it to split onto multiple lines. Moving down a little bit, you have the ability to force upper or lower case if you wish to do so. And then you've got options for line height, character spacing, word spacing, and paragraph spacing. Next along, we have border and shadow options. So these are just adding effects to our field or our individual text. So our borders will create a border around the entire field. It's also in here that we can apply a background color to the entire field. And change the opacity if we wish to do so. And then we have the shadow option, which just allows us to define a shadow on the individual lettering and to modify the design of that shadow. Now finally on here, we have the Details tab. So from an administrator and template designer perspective, the Details tab is the most critical of the tabs available here. Within this tab, you can control the frame or text customization options that a customer is able to access. So there's a lot of different options available within this tab. What they essentially do is enable or disable the individual customization options that we can see in these other tabs. Additional things you can do in there is disable the ability to load this pop-up at all for an end user. You can disable the ability to move or to rotate the field. You can make it so that the frame can't be selected or can't be deleted. Full customization over what the end user is able to do. Also in here, and particularly relevant to a text field, is this placeholder text. So this is just the text that will be shown if there's no custom text written in the field itself. So if I remove the text that I've written in there, you can see that it displays the placeholder text. So if we add a few restriction options to here just to test this out. So if I say, for example, I don't want the user to be able to do anything here apart from to actually change the text that's contained within the text field. So I could say, for example, it's going to be fixed position. I can't change the field size. Maybe I don't want to allow them to open the pop-up, so this whole pop-up will be disabled. And I want to restrict the ability to delete the field. However, I still want to be able to select it so I can actually override the text. So maybe I'll leave the do not select field disabled. Now, as an administrator, I'm always going to have access to all of these options. So I can't verify in this mode that the options I've selected are going to be valid for our users. However, I have got an emulation mode which lets me see the product as a user would see it and interact with the product as a user would interact with it. So if I go to menu, the first option in my admin section is emulate user mode. That will now allow me to interact as a user would. So I can't do much with this. I can still rotate as I haven't disabled that in my options. I can't reposition. I can't load up the pop-up window. However, I can still override the text. Finally, you may come across a couple of issues with your text fields. Primarily, these are just positional issues. So if I move the text field off the canvas itself, you see that I get this warning appearing, and it's saying that there are positional issues. Now, this is just a warning, so you'll still be able to ignore the issue by clicking here, or you can still progress to basket. However, if you don't want those to be appearing, your two options are to either move the field so they're completely on the canvas, or you can disable positional warnings completely by going to menu, product options, going right down to general field features, and then we have an option here which is do not check for positional issues, which will just remove that check completely.